Jake Wetterling had a dog named Marcus. Just remember that, because it could be important. It could be important. It could even relate to Friday, 9th of March 2018. Perhaps. But the first date for this prophecy, the first date I made part of this prophecy, or the first date of the prophecy, the first date in the list of dates that are the prophecy, was Wednesday, the 6th of December 2017. And it was on Wednesday, 6th of December 1989, that I was approached by a dishonest person. I believe he was a sexual predator. And I was at Western Park. I was 13 years old. I was at Western Park. I was on school excursion. I wandered away from where the excursion was, some distance, and this guy drove his car up to where I was with some other kids, and proceeded to walk up to me and start a conversation, which turned out not to be a legitimate conversation. It turned out that he was grooming me, and it was actually kind of really obvious, because he was trying to bribe me to go with him to look at an aquarium, and it was just as sus can be. Then, what happened next, I don't know. I don't know, because I was talking to an adult. I didn't know how to say no to him. It didn't feel right, but I didn't know how to say no, because I was talking to an adult, even though he was probably only in his mid-20s. I was only 13. And so I didn't know how to say no, and it was like a battle of wills going on between me and him. And then my memory just cuts out. I don't know what happened. I don't know what he did, but he did something. So, yeah, that was on Wednesday, 6th of December 1989. This last year, the anniversary, I made a prediction. It was 28 years later, so I thought, why not? Why not make a prediction? And I predicted something was going to happen on this date. I was thinking along the lines of a cyclone making landfall at a certain time. I went very precise with my prediction. I said, cyclone, landfall, 9:45 p.m. Didn't, seriously believe that was going to happen, but that's what I went with. And what actually happened on this date? Well, actually, there was a couple of things. The Thomas Fire in California burned down into Ventura, started burning buildings on this date, Wednesday, 6th of December 2017. So there was a wildfire. And Donald Trump, speaking of wildfires, Donald Trump announced that he was recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Not that I am ideologically opposed to Jerusalem being the capital of Israel, but I am opposed to the way Benjamin Netanyahu has treated Palestine. I'm against the building of, by Israel, the building of settlements which more or less push the Palestinians off land that was their land. And I think that's wrong. I think it's wrong the way Israel has treated Palestine. But I also think it's wrong the way some people are anti-Semitic as well. So, another thing I predicted for Wednesday, 6th of December, is that a storm was going to hit Vaucluse in Sydney. Vaucluse is actually a very Jewish suburb of Sydney. And there's a reason why I chose that place. There's a cemetery there in Vaucluse. There's a lighthouse. And it's one of the oldest cemeteries in Australia, and also one of the oldest lighthouses there at the South Head in Vaucluse. So it's kind of interesting, Vaucluse being one of the most Jewish suburbs in Sydney. Interesting that Donald Trump, of all dates, it was this date when he made his announcement. So, yeah, I've documented other things that happened on other dates. A meteor made a sonic boom over Canberra on the 22nd of December. And a tropical storm hit the Philippines, hit the southern Philippines, Mindanao, and a few hundred people died. It was the worst storm of the 2017 typhoon season in the Western Pacific. 7th of January, the second hottest day in the history of the Sydney Basin, and the hottest day in the history of Penrith. The 23rd of January, Tuesday the 23rd, there was a lot of stuff happened this date. There was, and most of it was to do with earthquakes. There was a big earthquake off the coast of Alaska, and there was another earthquake, and that was 7.9 on the Richter scale. There was another earthquake off Java, which rattled Jakarta in Indonesia, and that was 6.1 magnitude. And yeah, so that was on the 23rd. 27th of January was the date I filmed the rainbow, the beautiful rainbow. It was on Saturday, 27th of January. Quite a special date because the name Jake equals 27. Saturday, well, Nathan Breeze died on a Saturday, and this is their prophecy. And then Wednesday the 31st of January, well, that turned out to be the date of the super blue blood moon. I didn't know that when I flagged the date. I only flagged these dates because Jake equals 27, Jacob equals 31. But there you go. And there were other things too. That's by no means everything that happened on those dates, but it's a few things that happened. Then Wednesday the 7th of February was always going to be on my list because that was the 9th anniversary of Nathan's death. Nathan was one of the victims of the Black Saturday bushfires in 2009. So it was the 9th anniversary this year. Fell on a Wednesday. 9 days later, on the 16th of February, the 16th of February is the anniversary of the Ash Wednesday bushfires. Because in 1983, Ash Wednesday fell on the 16th of February. This year it lands on a Friday, the 16th of February, 2018. 9 days after the anniversary of Black Saturday, which fell on a Wednesday, you have the anniversary of Ash Wednesday, falling on a Friday. And strangely, the anniversary of Black Friday, the 13th of January, 1939, fell on a Saturday. So it's like they're all on each other's days of the week. So, the final date of the prophecy, so Friday the 16th of February is yet to come. The final date is Friday, 9th of March, 2018. And I've got a friend who was born on Saturday, the 9th of March, 1991. Saturday. Nathan Breeze died on a Saturday, the 7th of February, 2009. Black Saturday. My friend was born on the Saturday, but this year his birthday falls on the Friday, 9th of March, 2018. The final date in this list of dates. So these are oracles, signs. Not science here. This is spooky stuff, freaky stuff. Stuff that Carl Jung might have liked. The oracles of angelic boys. Clues, omens. Things in nature and beyond nature. Message against authoritarianism. Yes, indeed. So, why a message against authoritarianism? Well, I heard a pastor on TV, a Christian evangelist, who were the ones that Donald Trump was basically trying to please, I think, when he announced that he was recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. The Jews were happy with it. Israel was impressed that he did that, but probably slightly surprised as well. Evangelical Christians were overjoyed. They were absolutely overjoyed. And I saw one of them on TV praising Donald Trump for a lot of things, for his Christian conservative values that he's pushing through his agenda, including opposition to same-sex marriage. And he described this guy who was actually black. He was a black man, but a big Donald Trump supporter. He described Donald Trump's enemies as snakes. So I went back to Jake and Nathan and I said, well, apparently if you're an enemy of Donald Trump, you're a snake. And Jake and Nathan just looked at me and said, oh well, so be it, we'll be snakes then. So snakes they are. So, like I said, Jake had a pet dog named Marcus. He named him after a football player, because Jake was quite a sporty boy. Sports loving. He was into swimming. He was a good swimmer. He was a soccer player, football player. He was a good ice hockey player. He was an ice hockey goalie. So no wonder Jake's the storm boy if he liked playing ice hockey. Ice hockey is a pretty violent sport. Wetterling, weather child. The weather child of Minnesota. And the boy who told me that Wetterling means weather child, that was at the start of May 2014. Well, that boy, I believe he's the reflection of Jacob Wetterling. Psychic reflection, physical reflection, mental reflection, sexual reflection of Jacob Wetterling. A reflection in every way. Got the same traits, got the same personality, got the same characteristics, got the same love as Jake, and the same passion as Jake. Maybe not a dog named Marcus, but you never know. Marcus equals 75, the boy equals 75. A reflective number is 57, which is the value of the word rose. There is a rose in the Dark Tower by Stephen King, and there's a boy named Jake Chambers, who names his Billy Bumbler, which is like a cross between a raccoon and a dog, Boy. He names him Boy. And the Billy Bumbler repeats boy as oi, because he can't pronounce a B. So, oi sticks, and that becomes his name. Oi, the Billy Bumbler. Oi, Marcus. 7 plus 5 equals 12. And today is Monday the 12th of February 2018. It is if you're in Minnesota, because in Minnesota it won't be midnight until 5 p.m. our time. So it's still 4.5 hours right now. 4.5 hours before midnight. So if you do the maths, midnight minus 4.5 hours, it's 7:30 right now in Minnesota. So it is Monday, 12th of February 2018 right now in Minnesota, in St. Joseph, near St. Cloud, Minnesota. St. Joseph is the little rural town that Jacob Wetterling lived. It's where he lived his life. He was 11 going on 12 when he died, and he lived his life in St. Joseph and played ice hockey in St. Cloud, went to school in St. Cloud and in St. Joseph, and he was murdered aged 11 going on 12, 11 years and 8 months old. Tragic ending to a beautiful young boy's life. Jacob Wetterling. Jake died on a Sunday. He died aged 11. The boy who told me that Wetterling means weather child, he was exactly the same age as Jake when Jake died. 11 years and 8 months old when he told me this. And he knew Wetterling means weather child in German. Wetter is German for weather, and Ling, he said, Ling has basically the same meaning as it does in English. Duckling, little one. Wetterling, weather child. Jake. So, where Jake is from, his hometown, his house, his home, it is still Monday the 12th of February 2018. It's about 7:30 p.m. Or about 7:20 p.m. to be precise, because my little clock there is about 5 minutes fast. So it's about 7:20 right now in Minnesota. And Sunday, the 11th of February, was the day before that. And, of course, Jake was 11. And a lot of stuff happened on Sunday, 11th of February. I added this date to my list because Jake died on a Sunday and he was 11. 11 going on 12. And that date was 26 days before Friday night to March 2018. God equals 26. 26 days. Dog, 26. Jake had a dog named Marcus. And it says in the Dark Tower, there's a part of the Dark Tower by Stephen King where it says, turn 9 on its head and you get 6. Eddie responds, yeah, spell God backwards and you get dog. They're trying to work out the keystone date. And the keystone date in the Dark Tower is Saturday, the 19th of June, 1999. The word 13 has a value of 99, and Nathan Breeze was 13. I think it was Nathan's idea to have 9 dates in a row. It took him a little while to get this through to me, that we were going to have 9 dates in a row. I started just with Friday the 9th, because I realized that Friday the 9th is 28 days before Friday the 9th of March. Friday the 9th of February, 28 days later, Friday the 9th of March. Then I thought, Have Faith Josh 10, 9:45. Well, that's sort of a message I saw in a dream back in 2012, so I thought 10 is in this date, and Nathan died on a Saturday, so I better add this date. Then Jake died on a Sunday and he was 11, so I better add this date. Then the zombie boy in my other dream was 12. And I Don't Like Mondays by the Boomtown Rats is a pretty good song, so I thought I better add this date. And guess what happened on this date? Cyclone Gita came towards Tonga and made landfall, a big landfall at midnight on Tuesday the 13th of February, which is today. Where I am, it is now, what is it, 12, getting towards 12:30, 5 minutes fast, remember? So, Tuesday, 13th of February, I was born on a Tuesday, Nathan Breeze died age 13, Cyclone Gita hit at midnight last night. Tomorrow is Wednesday, the 14th of February. I've heard there are dead people in Tonga right now as a result of Cyclone Gita. Brat is a pretty good word for describing either Jake or Nathan when they are in a naughty mood, which they often are. Both boys were pranksters, loved practical jokes, so quite capable of being brats. Both are dead. Dead brat equals 14 plus 41, 55. What name has a value of 55? Well, we'll get to that in a second, but Wednesday the 14th of February, I realised something pretty interesting, and that is, you remember how I was saying Friday the 16th of February is 9 days after the anniversary of Black Saturday? So the anniversary of Ash Wednesday, falling on a Friday, is 9 days after the anniversary of Black Saturday, which fell on Wednesday the 7th of February. Well, Ash Wednesday is on Wednesday the 14th of February. So I'm calling it the Bonfire Heart date. 14, the value of dead, the reflection of brat. Thursday, 15th of February. Thor's Day. Thor, the god of lightning and thunder in Greek mythology. This is the only date that I had trouble justifying why I added this date, until I realised, well, wait a minute, it's going to be 9 dates in a row here. Face equals 15. 51 is angelic. It's also demon. Friday the 16th was easy, that's the anniversary of Ash Wednesday. And Saturday the 17th of February was easy, that's Jake's birthday. And it's a Saturday. And it's the 17th. So, there's a love heart next to Jake's birthday. Jake would have turned 40 on this coming Saturday. 40, the value of the word pain. Also the value of the word David, the name David, which is Nathan's middle name. So 9 dates in a row, which happens to be coinciding with a heat wave across Queensland in Australia. Unprecedented heat wave started around here. The Winter Olympics started here too. Opening ceremony was on Friday, 9th of February. Keep in mind Jake Wetterling was a keen ice hockey player. Interesting. 9 dates in a row. Then, Friday, 9th of March 2018. The final date. The date when my friend turns 27. My friend who was born on Saturday, the 9th of March 1991. 1991, a reflective number. 21st of the 12th, 2017. I was driving along and I was thinking about my prediction. My prediction was for Friday 22nd of December 2017. I had decided that Mount Agung was going to erupt at 9:45 p.m. That was my prediction. But then I was driving along and I thought, actually I think something's going to happen on Nathan's birthday. But I don't know when Nathan's birthday is. And so I made a video saying I'm going to have to find out when Nathan's birthday is. And just after that, as I was driving along, they played Bonfire Heart on the radio. Mix 106.3. It's a Canberra radio station. So that was on Wednesday, 14th of February. And, I mean, that's the date I've attached Bonfire Heart to. It is actually 55 days after the 21st of December 2017, which is the date when I heard Bonfire Heart on the radio. So Wednesday the 14th of February is 55 days after Thursday the 21st of December. Another reflective date, 2112. Jake is Satan. Jake is Satan because the enemies of Donald Trump and other authoritarian type people, religious hypocrites, propaganda merchants, Vladimir Putin types, there's a lot of them these days. Well, yeah, they're snakes apparently. So Jake is Satan. 55 days after I heard Bonfire Heart play on the radio. It's going to be Ash Wednesday, 14th of February. Also, Valentine's Day. And if you've heard the lyrics of Bonfire Heart by James Blunt, and you take into account that Nathan Breeze was a victim of the Black Saturday bushfires, you'll see what I mean about spooky. Weird coincidence. Crazy. Very crazy to a psychiatrist. A psychiatrist would definitely be prescribing me with some hardcore drugs by now if they were listening to me in an interview where their job was to diagnose me. That's for sure. Love equals 54. Love 54. So the 22nd of December was on my original list of dates, and the 22nd of December was when I went to the National Library and I looked up the newspaper archives. I had to look at microfilm, and I thought to look in the Northern Territory news, and I discovered a death notice for Nathan, and I found out he was born on Friday, the 24th of November, 1995. So he wasn't much more than 13 when he died. 13 and a couple of months, about 3 months. And I was 13 and 6 months old when Jake died. So, love, 54. And the date I found out Nathan's date of birth, the date that the meteor went bang over Canberra, the date that the southern Philippines got hit by Tenbin, the tropical storm, Friday, 22nd of December 2017, the date I felt the breeze that evening. I felt the breeze in a way that I knew it was Nathan. Nathan was literally touching me as a breeze. How's that for weird? True though. So, 55 days. And 54 days after the 22nd, it's the 14th. Wednesday the 14th of February, 2018. The date of the Bonfire Heart of Jacob Wetling and Nathan Breeze. So, what else can we say? Monday the 12th of February was yesterday. It was last night. Or it's today. If you're in Minnesota, it's tonight. It was last night in a place in the Pacific that got battered by a cyclone, a big cyclone. Tuesday, 13th of February 2018, midnight, Tonga got hit by a cyclone. It was today, it was last night. Tropical cyclone Gita hit Tonga. Tomorrow is Wednesday the 14th of February 2018. It's Valentine's Day and it's Ash Wednesday 2018. It's two big occasions in one. It's a day of romance, it's a day of penance. If you're a Christian, if you're a Catholic. I think there's a lot of Christians and Catholics these days who are hypocrites, who would never do penance. They would never fast. They would never deprive themselves of anything. Because they're just greedy. Hypocrites, liars, propaganda merchants. The ones that are have made climate change denial kind of the cool thing to be. It's not. It's not cool. It's not cool at all. Bonfire Heart. The date of the Bonfire Heart. Ash Wednesday, 2018. Valentine's Day and Ash Wednesday, 2018. So yeah, 13-year-old Nathan Breeze from Kinglake, West Victoria. He was born on Friday, 24th of November 1995. He died on Saturday, 7th of February 2009. Black Saturday. Kid equals 24. That's Nathan's date of birth. And today is Tuesday, the 13th of February 2018. Nathan was 13. I was born on Tuesday. And in 24 days from today, it will be Friday, 9th of March 2018. Age 13. Nathan was dead at the age of 13. 13 plus 14 equals 27. And Jake, I sort of forgot to put the equal sign, but I will add it now. Jake equals 27, the name Jake. J plus A plus K plus E equals 27. That's 10 plus 1 plus 11 plus 5 equals 27. So who is turning 27 on Friday, 9th of March 2018? Well, that would be my friend in India who's turning 27. He was born on Saturday. And Nathan Breeze died on Saturday. He was born on Friday. My friend's birthday is falling on Friday this year. It's the final date in the list of dates. Coming hot on the heels of 9 dates. Kind of hot on the heels. There's a bit of a gap actually between Saturday the 17th of February and Friday 9th of March 2018. But that's okay. You're allowed to have gaps. The original dates of the prophecy are these ones. These were the original dates. Before Nathan thought to add 9 more dates in a row, plus a couple of others. These were the original dates of the prophecy of Jacob Wetling and Nathan Breeze. And, yeah, don't forget, Jake is the Storm Boy. His surname means Weather Child. There's a boy in this world now who is Jake's psychic reflection, who was born on the 6th of the 9th, 2002, another reflective number, and whose birthday coincided with cyclones Irma and Jose. Irma, the strongest landfalling hurricane in Atlantic history, fell on the birthday of the boy who is the psychic reflection of Jacob Wetling in 2017. On Wednesday the 6th of the 9th, 2017, Jake had a pet dog named Marcus. Oi, Marcus. Oi, Marcus. Oi, Marcus, we need to play a video. We need to play a video to explain why we are against authoritarianism, why we are against political authoritarianism, political propaganda, religious hypocrisy, which seems to underscore nearly all political authoritarianism, totalitarianism. It seems to be growing, seems to be getting more widespread. And it seems to be that there's so many leaders of so many countries today who are starting to fit the profile of the authoritarian leader. In Australia, we've now got Peter Dutton as the head of Home Affairs, a guy who likes to kind of like stigmatize, demonize people if they come from certain countries, like Bangladesh, or from, it's not just Muslims, it's people from certain countries. Myanmar, the Rohingya Muslims from Myanmar, the atrocities that were committed against them recently haven't even been recognised by the Australian government. That military there have not been condemned, and it's just continued business as usual. 6,000 people murdered, kids thrown into fires. To burn is something that Nathan has a big problem with. So we're going to play a video now. A lot of people who die in firestorms die in war. So be careful who you support. There's more than There's a lot more than one authoritarian regime in the world today. The fight against terrorism is leading Western countries towards authoritarianism, towards totalitarian developments. And people don't realize what they're giving up. For the sake of being safe from terrorism, you may be in danger of being consumed by something a whole lot worse. And that is the loss of your freedom.
A look at rising tensions in the Middle East.
Yeah, we've seen
I want to get the start of this.
All right, we are going to take a few moments now to look at rising tensions in the Middle East.
Yeah, we've seen a flurry of stories in recent days involving both military action and a growing war of words. First, Israel shot down what it says when it was an Iranian drone that had infiltrated its airspace.
Israel says the drone came from a base in Syria. Now, a short time later, Syria and Iran responded by shooting down an Israeli F-16 fighter in northern Israel that had been part of the attacks on the base in Syria. Both pilots did eject from the plane. They were hurt but alive. Meanwhile, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu talking about applying Israeli sovereignty to West Bank settlements. There's a lot to get through. Joining us now with his perspective on what's been going on in the Middle East is Mark Nimdic. He is Executive Vice President of Brookings, a former US Ambassador to Israel, live for us from New York. Always a pleasure to get your expertise, Ambassador. Let's start with that recent drama in the region. Iran apparently sending a drone into Israel. Israel attacks Syrian and Iranian targets in Syria. Given all of this, are you surprised that the US Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, who's in the region, isn't going to Israel?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that we should have a situation in which such crisis that the Secretary of State of the United States should be engaged in trying to tamp it down, engage with the Russians and particularly with the Israelis to see how he can calm it down. But it's not a surprise because the Secretary of State is not an activist when it comes to diplomacy, and he's been essentially cut out of the Israeli-Palestinian negotiations such as they are, or the efforts to get them launched, which has been the preserve of the White House. As a result, he hasn't been to Israel in the year or so that he's been in office, and he doesn't consider it important enough to go there this time, despite the looming crisis there.
In the big picture, that's extraordinary just to hear you say those words, but you're absolutely right. I mean, and you mentioned Russia there, and it's important. You have the Israeli Prime Minister speaking with Vladimir Putin after this military action. On top of that, the Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas is turning to the Russians for help. You have the President of the United States calling Mr. Putin about the air crash, and then Mr. Putin telling Mr. Abbas the US President passes on his best wishes. Doesn't it all sort of show how on the outer the US is in the region at the moment in terms of power, and Russia is holding the reins?
Yes, I think that's true for the Israeli Arab-Palestinian arena. It is not true in the eastern part of the Middle East, where the United States is still very active, particularly in eastern Syria and in Iraq, and that's what Secretary of State Tillerson is really going to the region to focus on. And of course in the Gulf with Saudi Arabia and the Emirates. But when it comes to Syria, it seems that President Trump has decided to focus only on eastern Syria, trying to clean up after ISIS. And western Syria and southwestern Syria in particular, on Israel's border, has been left to the Russians. As for the Israeli-Palestinian peace process, President Trump's move on Jerusalem to recognize Israel's capital there has essentially forced the Palestinians out of that process. And so the United States finds itself trying to mediate without being able to talk to one of the partners.
Right.
So it's a kind of absurd situation and it just underscored that he would have to go to Putin to send his regards to Abu Mazen, the Palestinian leader.
Exactly. It just struck me the same way. I'll ask you about that in a moment as well, but I wanted to ask you this first. Israel has many times targeted Hezbollah shipments in Syria bound for Lebanon, but this latest incident targets Iranian assets as well as Syrian assets. What are the risks there of escalation, creeping escalation?
I think they are now very high. I mean, if you imagine a situation where those Israeli pilots ejected over Syrian territory and were captured instead of in Israel, landing in Israel, we would have had, I think, a very full-on confrontation. As it is, Israel Air Force went back in and destroyed about 40% of the Syrian air defenses. But the Iranians have been moving in there. It's not just about Hezbollah anymore. The Iranians have positions, bases in Syria, close to Israel's borders, and that is a great cause of great deal of concern to the Israelis, a concern that I regret to say the United States is not taking seriously. Yeah. As a result, Prime Minister Netanyahu has gone 7 times in the last year and a half to Moscow to try to get Putin to get clear red lines for the Iranians to keep them away from Israel's borders. The response of the Iranians by sending a drone, you could call it a trial drone or a trial balloon, into Israeli territory was an indication the Iranians are not going to be restrained. And there's a real potential now for a direct confrontation. We actually had it in this last go-round between Israel and Iran. We've had a Cold War between Israel and Iran, a kind of covert war going on between Israel and Iran for decades. We've never been in this situation where Israeli and Iranian forces are in effect cheek by jowl.
And it was interesting to say that Benjamin Netanyahu called Vladimir Putin after that exchange. I did want to squeeze this in because you mentioned the peace process, such as it is, if we can even call it that. Reports that Mr. Netanyahu is seriously considering, under pressure from his right wing, annexing Israeli settlements in the West Bank, giving them sovereignty is another way of putting it. How problematic would that be? What sort of peace process is there if Jerusalem's off the table and settlements are being annexed?
Well, it's game over. But it's all pretty much game over already. But, you know, I think that the Trump administration, the White House actually, has a kind of tacit understanding, maybe explicit understanding with Prime Minister Netanyahu, that if he doesn't do extraordinary acts when it comes to the settlements, they won't oppose or criticize his ordinary acts like expanding the settlements, legalizing illegal settlements. But if he's going to annex them, that's a bridge too far from them. That's crossing a red line. And they made it clear today by rebuking him when he said to his supporters that he'd been discussing annexation with the Trump White House. President Trump himself, in an interview with an Israeli newspaper on Sunday, made clear that he continues to regard settlements as problematic and urged Israel to be very careful about what it did there.
Oh, always great to get your expertise on this, Martin Indyk. Ambassador, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Michael.
Good to see you.
The political future of South African President Jacob Zuma remains up in the air. The ruling ANC party has been holding a marathon meeting on whether Mr. Zuma should leave his post.
We're waiting on the party's official decision. It is the middle of the night there at the moment. He lost the party's leadership in December to his deputy.
So you notice how it's gone to a story about someone named Jacob? Interesting, huh?